Hey, HR friends, welcome back. We made it to day 5. We're still in the 2-4 emotional day sequence, and this is the big graph, right? So this is the 6.5 day 2-4 sequence, and here's day 5 right here. This little white rectangle is showing you the 24-hour section we're going to take a look at. Now, you can see this 24-hour section's got a little bit of action in it. In fact, this might have some of the most action in this sequence. So let's just back up. Yesterday, we talked about this a little bit. At the end of day 4, we had a little build up here. And you can see it's starting to build here, and there was even a little bit in first person perspectives. All right. Now, in day 5 here, we got a little bit of a blue peak here. So first person perspectives, agitation is what this means. And what does that mean to you? Well, when these little moments come up, all these little spikes come up, what's happening is without your permission, without your knowledge, your defensive biology is being activated. So if you're around people and this is happening, it's very easy to start to get a little confused and a little bit defensive. And then that's when things go down that create all the stress. And it's that stress that accelerates our aging and leads to all the different diseases that we end up suffering from. So, if we can understand when these polarity points are coming and specifically know whether it's going to affect us at the first person level or the third person level, it's kind of important because then you can kind of schedule your day and know, hey, I got to keep my stuff together today. Calm, collective, cooperative. Those are the words we're going to use for tomorrow. Now, I gotta mention, I know that I'm talking about that this is coming up here, and you can see, like yesterday, I talked about if it gets to a level 4, you're gonna notice that. So if you're out at the store, you're out in traffic, you're gonna notice during this point right here. But we're still not too high here, okay? Now, there is some things that we need to talk about, so we're gonna keep moving on the graph here. Tomorrow is a day that you need to pay attention, and I would specifically make sure that you get a photo of the 24-hour because that's going to really dial in when these are going to happen and what times they're going to happen at. That's important. Very preventative. You can actually make a plan to make sure that things go smooth. All right. Now let's move on to objectives. So in the beginning part of the week, the first 4 days, I said not much to talk about. Everything was pretty much holding steady, right? Look at it. And now on day 5, we got a little drop down here, we got a little kick up here, we got a drop down kick up, and we start high and drop off. So we're going to have some action tomorrow. All right, let's go look at that action. Oh, and before we move down here, this is always worth mentioning. The only things you have to master in this experience, in this life that we're in, you just have to get real good at first person perspectives and real good at third person perspectives. And then when all of these frequencies test our quadrants, really they're just testing our relationships. And if our relationships aren't doing well, then our quadrants won't do well. If our relationships are healthy and doing well, then you don't have to worry. Your quadrants are going to do very well. You're going to age very gracefully, and things are going to go well for you. That's what we're trying to help you understand. All right, let's keep moving here. So now we're down to the 24 hours. So for people that are just coming in here, if you're new to this, what we've got here is we've got 24 offsets. And what these offsets allow you to do on your phone, you can come down and you can kind of hunt and peck here. And what we're looking for, I'm Eastern time zone. So we're at -6. So in 20 seconds, we're going to be to -4, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. Now, what you do is you wait until your number's up, or you go down and select it, and then it gives you 10 seconds, and then you take a shot of it. And what that does is it lines up the times of the day with the peaks and when it's going to affect us defensively. It's very important to know when things are going to be a little defensive, especially if you got to be out in the community or if you've got to be at work or you're hanging out with the family. There's never anything worse than that surprise argument that just spoils the whole day, and it doesn't have to happen anymore. You can literally use these graphs and they're synchronized to your time zone, so you're not going to be caught by surprise when you say something the wrong way and somebody just erupts at you. We're trying to end that because that's not good for relationship, that's not good for health, that's not good for anything. All right, let's keep moving here. So once you got your time fields and you got this picture, you just know that during these times, you got to be careful about first person perspectives. During these times, third person perspectives. And this is how it aggregates together. All right. So now let's move on and let's talk about the alignments. So we've actually got a few alignments tomorrow. And some of these alignments are relatively strong, even though they're positioned farther down on the chart. They're positioned farther down on the chart because the pair with the alignment is small, but one side is big. What do I mean? Let's talk about this for a minute. So the first alignment we're going to talk about is the EE, okay? Here it is. Let's take the EE, ride this over, and there's that blue one right there. How do we know it's blue? Because this is blue. It says it's an hour and a half. That's that hour and a half line right there. That's when two hands of the clock come together, two frequencies combine. When two frequencies are going in the exact same direction, they're going to amplify their strength. And during this amplified moment of strength, if you're out of balance with what it's testing, it's very likely you're going to feel it. That's how frequency works. It's either going to be constructive, it's going to help, or it's going to be destructive, it's going to hurt. That's how this goes. All right, so the E, the capital E, is going to affect the upper left quadrant, all right? And the little e is going to affect the upper right quadrant. Well, which one do we think we're going to feel more? This is a 6.5 day sequence, and this is a 3.5 hour sequence. So during this blue alignment, I would expect people are going to feel their left shoulder more than they're going to feel their right shoulder. That's how you would determine that. If the capital letter is the one you're going to worry about, the smaller letter isn't going to have as much power. The only one that's small that actually has quite a bit of power is the M. That's the second strongest. Other than this little guy right here, you can basically look at the small letters and go, I don't have to worry. That's not going to be as strong. But that's like the hour hand paired with the second hand. That's how I would describe that. All right, let's keep moving here. So we've got another EE alignment that's happening. So let's ride that line out here. And now we're looking for a purple one. And there it is, this little guy right here. And this one's going to affect upper right quadrant. And this one's going to affect upper left quadrant. And this is reversed, right? This was green and it was the strong one. Now this one's yellow and it's the strong one. And these two alignments happen kind of on top of each other. So don't be surprised if you feel it in both shoulders during this time if you're out of balance with either one of those things. This side is first person perspective, so this is mother-father relationship. This side is third person perspective, so this is national and world relationship. National and world relationship. All right, so let's move on here. Let's go to the EP now. Now we're going to ride up and we're going to get to the EP right here. There it is, right there. 3 hours. This one's going to affect both left upper quadrant and right upper quadrant. Now we've got two capital letters, right? And these two capital letters, this one's a 6.5 day sequence. This is a 12-hour sequence. So you can understand it's going to be more probable on this side. This is stronger than this one is, but it's going to be affecting both. And now we have three alignments in this 24-hour segment that are all coming up here. And two of the alignments specifically have to do with your national and world view. So this is stuff where you'd want to have a plan about how are you helping with climate change? What are you doing to make sure that you're managing resources and not wasting water, not wasting energy, so that we can kind of get climate back under control and get our societies back balanced again with our environment? We have really dropped the ball with our environment. We seem to think that other things are more important. If you start to hurt during these times, here and here, or you have this hit right here, it is telling you you need to focus more on the bigger picture. All right, let's keep moving here. Last alignment we're going to talk about is ME, right here, ME. This one's going to left lower quadrant, and this has to do with first person perspectives of young females. How we treat young females. Do we treat them respectfully? Are we nice to them? Or do we treat them with equality? If not, if you're one of those people that, maybe you don't think women are as important as men, this is going to be a problem for you. And you can expect to feel that down in the left quadrant. Why do I say that? This is pretty strong. This ME is relatively strong. The M is one of the strongest frequencies, okay? So that in itself is going to ramp this up a little bit, and this is kind of a long one for an hour and a half here. So if you have a hit, that's exactly what that means. So if at that time when your time field hits up and that starts to tear off, then you know exactly what relationship you need to start developing more. All right, so we're done with the alignments. Now let's come down here and we're going to check out the 24-hour span. And I'm actually going to connect the position of the macro frequencies with this so you get an idea of why this is important to know. Because today I'm spending a little bit more time showing you which ones are strong and which ones are weak. And here we're only listing the strong ones. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the upper left quadrant starting tomorrow, or starting for this 24-hour sequence. This is the first 12-hour segment. This is the second 12-hour segment. Okay. So the first 12-hour segment, we're up at 4, dancing up to 4 and 5, and then boom, we're up to 6, and then we kind of drop back down, and it teeters off a little bit. Now, remember, we've got two alignments right here that are going to affect left and right shoulder, and that's when this is really kind of high. And that alignment's going to be happening right in this section here. Now, The right shoulder starts out a little lower, but at the time those alignments happen, it's starting to jump up. There's going to be more frequencies in here, which is going to amplify it. So this section right here, I would not be surprised if this is when people start to have a little visual problem or a little bit of sinus issue, or this is when they get a headache or they get that knot in their shoulder, all kinds of stuff, feeling like you're getting that little sore throat kind of thing. That's what happens when you're out of balance with these frequencies. It's unpleasant. And that's the kind of unpleasantness you're going to expect if you're not doing well in the relationships that are being tested at that time. All right. So the other thing we're going to look at here too is just look at the left and right upper extremity. So we've got the P frequencies up there. We've got the M. This is the second strongest frequency. This is the third strongest frequency. This is the fourth strongest frequency. All right. So as far as the upper body goes, yes, we're going to have a lot of tests up there. And yes, the E's are up there. And yes, this M is up there. But those strongest frequencies are actually in the lower quadrants. So just be aware of that. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is talk about the left lower quadrant. So left lower quadrant tomorrow, that is possibly an issue. Why am I saying that? Well, look at how they stack up in the left tomorrow. Boom, 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 boom. We got three of them and two of the strongest down here. And we're gotten the other frequencies. So the little p, the little e, there's too many of them to list. So I only keep the big ones in here. But that's what's causing all this up and down motion. So left lower quadrant, pretty probable tomorrow. Okay. Especially in the first 12 hours, especially in the first 12 hours. But then remember, at the end of the 12-hour segment here, wait, 150. Yeah, right here. My bad, right here. So at the end of that segment is when that real strong one's coming. So what's going to happen here is the first 12 hours is going to be testing hard. It's going to drop down a little bit. It's going to spike back up. And then we're going to get this little exclamation point at the end of the day. All right. So now let's just check out right lower quadrant. Not much going on here. This is pretty light. Between 0 and 2 and 1, it's bouncing up and down here. Now, there is one strong frequency down here. This is the ear frequency. It's not moving. So it is possible that people are going to be having some right pain tomorrow, but it's not likely. Now, I'm going to explain something to you. The way our bodies are set up, it's called gate control theory. And what happens is in gate control theory, if one part of your body hurts, it's hard to really feel the other one. When I was in practice, I'd tell a patient, I'd say, hey, if you have a headache and you hit your thumb with a hammer, you're not going to feel your headache anymore. Your thumb's going to overpower it. So what happens is we really start to focus on the area that's the sorest. And then when that one goes away, then we feel the area that then becomes the sorest. That's how this works. So that's how it's easy to kind of direct and also predict where people are going to feel this because our bodies are not designed to feel it everywhere all at one time. If we could feel everything all at one time, that would take miserable to a whole nother level. All right, so tomorrow is going to be kind of interesting. You should really be paying attention to how you feel. And if you have any unpleasantness at anything, you want to document those times. You want to come back to our website and use our space time technology to look up and see exactly what the influences were that caused you to have that unpleasant experience. All right, that's fantastic. That's a pretty good one here. We had a lot of new information. Oh, one last thing we're going to talk about before we go here. This little M frequency, I moved it over really before it needs to. But what's happening here is it's actually right here at the moment I'm making this video. But in the first 12-hour segment, at the end of that first 12-hour segment, it's actually going to transition and it's going to move. And that's what's causing all this polarity. That's how strong that little M is. That's what's lifting this up and holding this up. That's what's lifting this up and holding this up. And it's just this guy right here that's really doing all that work. So don't be surprised in the second 12 hours if you start to feel that right shoulder a little bit because this guy right here is pretty strong. Okay, now we are done. Have a great night or a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.